Hi everyone. Welcome to Daily Recaps. Today, I am going to explain a movie called Righteous Ties. Hope you like it. Enjoy the video and take care. Dong Kai-sung is a mobster who works for Mogul Yan, a businessman. He goes to a professor named Choi to assassinate him on his boss's orders. While the man screams for his life, Kai-sung hands him a knife and instructs him to complete the duty on his own. Sirens of police vehicles were instantly heard by all of them. Choi's mood shifts, and he starts to threaten the gangsters for whom he was pleading. A few moments ago, some of the men head outside to see if they are about to be apprehended when they notice a fire truck driving by. Choi, when informed, stares down calmly, as if he's had enough of him. With the knife, Kai-sung assaults the man. Kai-sung and his henchmen are apprehended during the battle. Choi, on the other hand, finds up in the hospital with serious injuries. A prosecutor then interviews Kai-sung, pleading with him to explain who ordered him to assassinate the man. Even though everyone knows it was his boss, Young-hee, Roman Sang refuses to accept it. His role in the attempted assassination, because he has been detained for 4 previous offenses, the prosecutor has threatened to sentence him to 20 years in prison. Kai-sung, on the other hand, says nothing about his boss. He is finally offered a settlement, and his sentence will be reduced to 5 years. Even if he cooperates with the police, Kai-sung remains silent. After a hearing, he is sentenced to 7 years in prison, and his boss, Young-hee, is impressed by his loyalty. Kai-sung is a hardship for him now that he is in detention. Kai-sung hears someone whistle and recognizes them as they are being led into the prison. He breaks free from the guards and races to it as his old associate Sun-tan, Chi-sun, who is astonished and thrilled, is making a floor noise at the fact that Sun-tan is still alive after being sentenced to death several years ago. During the break, the old friends converse about many topics, and Sun-tan inquires about his father, who died last year. Kai-sung expresses regret for failing to assist Sun-tan with the death penalty. Inmates in the same cell as Chi-sung introduce themselves to him during the lunch break. Everyone at the table is bullied by a noisy convict. He and his group, who are at the top of the food chain, beat up anyone they don't like. Chi-sung's employer, Young-hee, goes to meet an injured Choi among the detainees and appears to be interested in doing business with him, so he suggests a deal. The man, on the other hand, is furious with Kai-sung for humiliating him and seeks vengeance at all costs. He asks Young-hee to assassinate Kai-sung in exchange for a contract. Young-hee mulls over the situation and decides that, for the sake of the company, he will assassinate his loyal former right-hand guy. Kai-sung's best friend and fellow gang member is Ju Jang. He is saddened by Chi-sung's incarceration and wishes for his love, Yang Yo-il, to pay him a visit in prison. However, the girl refuses to speak to Kai-sung. Young-hee, who has come to visit Sung in prison, he falsely states that he is doing his hardest to get him out to express gratitude for his loyalty. Kai-sung is pleased that his employer has paid him a visit, but he has no idea that he is preparing to murder him in exchange for a bargain. He also lets his supervisor know that Sun-tan is still alive. The man is not pleased to learn the news because he and Sun-tan have a strained relationship. Following his meeting with Yo-il Ju-jen, he goes to Chi-sung's parents' house to inform them of his incarceration. The parents are unsurprised, given their son's history of criminal behavior. Ju-jen examines an old photograph of himself. In childhood, Chi-sung, Sun-tan, and I used to be inseparable. After the guards finish the first round, return to the prison, Chi-sung's cellmates stand up and show him a secret tunnel they've dug. They intend to flee after they've completed it. Moon-soo, an innocent inmate, is beaten up by a bunch of bull is in another cell. The next morning at breakfast, the poor guy is bruised and crying. Kai suddenly feels sorry for him and, to everyone's surprise, beats up the bully and his gang. He is, however, placed in solitary confinement as a result of this. The next day, Ju Jang tries to meet him, but he is unable to do so because detainees in solitary confinement are not permitted to communicate with outsiders. Professor Choi takes Young-hee to a factory somewhere else. He's extracting a serum that can kill anyone from a special Japanese plant. Only Choi has the antidote to it and is ready to sell the serum to Young-hee with just a smell when he finishes his part of the bargain, which is to kill King. That night, some men broke into Chisung's parents' home and viciously beat them. One of Young-hee's men goes to Moon-soo the next day and asks him to assassinate Chisung for money. Moon-soo is conflicted because he owes Kai-sang money. Young-hee's rival mobster Bong-shik pays him a visit somewhere else. He was left disabled after Chisung stabbed him 7 times in the leg in order to exact vengeance. He was the one who dispatched the goons to assault Chisung's parents. When Ju Zhang learns of this, he rushes over to their house and saves them. They have been seriously hurt and are being treated in a hospital. Yo-il returns to the prison to see Chisung and informs him of the attack on his parents. Moon-soo stabs him later that day, distraught and outraged by his emotions. Choosing to side with Young-hee Kai, he does not fight back and merely begs him to flee. He gets brought to the hospital the next day. Sun Tan loses his cool and declares to the convicts that whoever stabbed his comrade will be killed at any costs. When Ju-jun discovers that it was his employer who tried to murder his best friend, he retaliates. However, he is advised that Sung's death is beneficial to the corporation, so he visits Sung in the hospital. He is okay now that he has regained consciousness. He is also informed of his boss's decision to murder him. He's disappointed, but not surprised, because he's always known since he was a kid that he could stab anyone in the back for his own good. In order to keep his friends safe, Ju-jun returns to his boss and informs him that Kai-sung is still unconscious. Young-hee senses his rage at being kept in the dark about their plan to kill Kai-sung. Chisung returns to the prison that night, and everyone rejoices. Kai-sung and his cellmates began plotting an elaborate escape the next day. They communicate with their outside associates in coded language and decide to carry out the plan. One night they crawl through the vents and manage to get to the sewer system. However, soon they come across 2 paths, one of which leads to the army base and the other one to a Nairway base. Unsure which path they should take, they return to the cell. Starting the next day, they continue digging the tunnel underground after a lot of hard work. It is announced that they are being shifted to the upper floor of the penitentiary for a renovation. After their hard work goes to waste, they decide to run away up front by destroying the wall that surrounds the prison. Since it is old and built without pillars, they believe if all the inmates push it at once, it will break down. During their next break, they try the method, but only get hurt still. Every day, Kai-sung and his crew attempt to break it, but the guards and police officers believe it is futile. As a result, they simply laugh at them, and the wall begins to fracture. Ju Zhang and his gang mates are learning to shoot a rifle in the countryside somewhere else. Ju Zhang fires a bullet into the sky, which hits a fighter jet flying overhead by accident. The bullet causes significant faults in the plane, which then crashes directly outside the prison. As the wall splits and breaks from the impact, all of the convicts become silent. Taking the opportunity, Kai-sung and his friends bolt outside. The other prisoners follow their lead, and soon chaos ensues in the prison. At the end of it, over half of the prisoners manage to escape. The news makes the national television, and the gang gets to know that Kai-soon has also escaped. He and 4 of his friends manage to not get caught, but one member of their group gets caught and reveals that it had been their plan all along. In the meantime, the group runs inside a photo studio to hide from the police. When a woman sees them, they reluctantly have to hold her hostage. They eventually change into the clothing they stole from a neighboring dry cleaner. The police apprehend all of the fugitives, leaving only 5 of them. They observe on the news that the member who was apprehended told the cops that the name of their gang is Love and Friendship. They have the hostage cook for them, and she treats them as though they were guests in her home. Yo-lee arrives a little time later with phones and money for everyone. Chisung takes her outside and tells her to forget about him. The two say their goodbyes and part ways. Following that, the group discusses what they should do next. Since they are being searched for everywhere, Kai-soon wants to avenge the men who attacked his parents, and the group decides to join him. They go to the lair of Bong-shik and beat up on his troops. Choi learns that Kai-sung is still living somewhere else. He'd already made the bargain with Young-hee after learning that Kai was about to die. He refuses to do business with them any longer and walks away. The Chan, on the other hand, stops him and knocks him up for attempting to murder his friend. Meanwhile, Kai-sung tracks down Bong-shik and stabs him in the other leg multiple times in retaliation for his parents' deaths. He plans to escape the city after suffering at the hands of his boss. He's afraid that when Chisung starts seeking for Young-hee, he'll be the next target. He is stopped by Ju Zhang, who claims he will save Young-hee at any costs because he is loyal. He is joined by several men who are eager to beat Sung up. Ju Zhang stops all of them and fights one-on-one with his childhood friend. She soon easily beats him up and asks him to stay aside when he fights with others because he still doesn't want him to get hurt. Following that, he is joined by Sun-en and the others of his group. They fight against the henchmen. Kai soon notices his former boss Young-hee getting in a car and driving away. He gets in a car to follow him, but is stopped by Zhu Sheng yet again. He asks Jijon to step away from the road, but he doesn't with no way out. Kai soon drives toward him at full speed. When he is about to hit him, Zhu Sheng puts his gun down, revealing he never planned to kill his friend. Shi Sung accidentally crashes onto him. Moments later, he puts Zhu Sheng in the car and drives him to the hospital. In the meantime, his teammates are arrested by the police again. He is also pursued by a number of police cars, and he eventually comes to a halt at the same intersection. Young Hee comes to a halt as well. Kai quickly exits the vehicle and inquires of Young Hee whether his business is truly more essential than his faithful friend. With many police officers aiming weapons at him, he approaches Young Hee's car with a knife. However, when Zhu Sheng shoots Young Hee from behind, he freezes in horror. Seconds later, he is also shot by the police. The movie ends as Kai soon holds his dying friend in his arms and reminisces. That's all from the movie. If you really want more interesting videos like this, then like and subscribe to Daily Recaps. See you again. Take care.